Hi, Partho.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Techtopia series. And for a change, now I would like to lead and start asking the questions,
Sure.
and maybe we can discuss. So, I got some comments on one of our previous podcasts where we talked about how AI can potentially become self aware and conscious. Um, and there was a question that we cannot visualize, or people cannot visualize, how an algorithm, a neural network, a silicon based machine, as we visualize a robot or a machine, can ever achieve the human level of awareness or consciousness. Um, while I personally feel it, experience it, and we've discussed in depth, I would like you to help elaborate for our viewers how the AI achieving consciousness may look like over the next few years, decades, centuries, whatever it might take. And maybe we can draw parallels from the human evolution to understand how humans also eventually, since a big bang or since a chemical, biological, neural actions, reactions across the universe and billions of years, came to where we are. So want to just need your help in helping visualize how potentially AI may achieve consciousness.
Yes, I do recall this line of conversation, though we didn't follow it up.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't follow through with it, but it's also very, at this stage, speculative. Let's start with that. We must understand that. It's still, it's early days to really think about AI and consciousness. Though I know many are, but I personally feel it's still very speculative. However, if we do want to address this question, we must start with talking about consciousness itself. What do we really mean by consciousness? So, you just used the phrase human consciousness. Now, when we say human consciousness, then again, exactly what do we mean? Because for me, there are multiple levels of consciousness. If there is a human consciousness, then there is an intra-human consciousness and a supra-human consciousness. So we will need to be very clear about what is an intra-human consciousness, and let's talk about the consciousness of animals, for instance. Again, it's very difficult for us to talk about consciousness of humans or animals or superhumans, gods. We can talk more easily about the intelligence of humans, animal intelligence, human intelligence. We can compare the two. We have concrete parameters that can define intelligence. But consciousness becomes difficult. So then if we break consciousness down, then we're talking about intelligence, we're talking about sentience itself. What is sentience? I mean, very simply stated, being aware of your surroundings makes you a sentient creature. So is a plant sentient? Yes, because a plant is aware of its environment, its surroundings. It can respond to stimuli from the environment. Phototropism, for instance. And there are several other ways in which we can figure that out. Animals definitely are sentient, whether marine life forms or amphibians or mammals. There's definitely an awareness of the environment, surroundings, the habitats, and also an awareness of itself in the habitat. It's not self-consciousness, but there is an awareness of the animal as an entity in this environment. That's how it protects itself. Yeah, of course, you'll say that that's instinctual, and yes, that is instinctual. But that instinct works through, let's say, a rudimentary self-awareness. The animal is aware of itself, as distinct from other animals in its immediate environment, or even animals of its own kind, different, So all that is there, and we can make this out from the outside. But what exactly is this animal consciousness? So we'll know only from the inside. And the human consciousness would be that much more complex. So if we want to talk about consciousness in terms of AI and human consciousness, then I would then like to come to question you. When we say human consciousness, what are we talking about? How do we know human consciousness? We can know a human being from his or her behavior, speech, behavior, and we can make out the thought process in the human being from the speech and from actions. But that the consciousness of the person, how would we make that out?
So I guess I think humans, all the senses, actions, reactions, outwardly, parameters of all humans can and will most likely be copied and done better, smarter, faster by AI or machines, right? That is almost a certainty, I think. Human consciousness is, again, very hard to define in words because it's something we experience. So like right now, I'm looking at you. In my brain, surely there are some signals and some reactions going on, which are acting and reacting and doing things. But there is no scientific way for us to figure it out. Why am I experiencing what I'm experiencing? Why are you experiencing what you're
And even your statement that we are experiencing consciousness is questionable because
Yes.
What is experience and what is consciousness, and where is experience happening if not in consciousness? So if we go to simpler factors like sentience, for instance, plant is sentient, an animal is sentient. So why will a robot with its sensors, electronic sensors, not be sentient because it's aware of its surroundings? What would be the difference? One would be an electrical process, the other would be a chemical process. And this is a chemical process that's happening in the brain and the central nervous system, which will therefore involve some electrical currents, some electrical signals being transmitted. So where really is the difference? Where do we draw the line?
I guess the question broadly is,
What I mean to say is, why are we saying sentience is possible only to a biological form of life when the mechanism appears to be the same?
sentience is certainly to an extent imaginable in AI to come in.
If the AI, the machine, the robot, whatever you choose to call it, is A, aware of its immediate surroundings, and B, can respond to the stimuli from that environment, which a machine can do as efficiently, if not more efficiently, than a biological form of life, isn't it so? So if we take consciousness and break it down to sentience, then yes, AI can be as sentient as any biological form of life. And I would say far more sentient than a human being. Because a human being would have its distractions and limitations, sensorial limitations, biological limitations, whereas the AI will not. The machine will not.
So I guess when we think about the question broadly is that as humans, like when we go to the beach, we'll feel the sand, we'll feel the air, we'll feel the sea.
So that's an interesting observation. Now, when you feel the sand, what exactly is happening? It's a very mechanical process, really.
Yeah.
The cells, which these are sensors. The cells, they receive signals. The touch transmits signals to the center of the brain, which interprets the matter as solid, liquid, or and even the shades of solidity, or how coarse is it and how smooth is it, or how hot is it, if it's liquid, or how cold it is, etc., etc. The whole sensorial range of experience. It's actually electrical, the cells are mechanical, and it's a transmission of an electrical signal to the cortical center of the brain, which interprets the signal. So really speaking, we don't see anything or touch anything or feel anything. It's only the brain that's interpreting signals. So that's though it's biological, it's a mechanical process which can happen in a machine just as well. What would be the difference? It's because we are humans, so we think, anthropocentric. So my feel of the sand on the sea beach or the water of the sea would be sort of final determinants of experience. But then that's anthropocentric. Wow. Says who? That these are final determinants or the only determinants of experience. An animal, I'm sure, will experience the same thing in a very different way. A plant would experience it, in a manner of speaking, the same thing in still a very different way. So why can't a machine also experience the sand and the water in its own electrical way, through its own algorithmic structure and flow? I mean, on the face of it, is there something that says it cannot happen that way? No, except our human conviction. No. This is only for humans.
No. There's possibility of all levels of evolution, conscious and otherwise, in every life form.
There are many humans. I mean, there was a time when we humans thought that we are the only ones who really communicate.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to acknowledge the fact that animals do communicate. Plants communicate, animals communicate. It took us a long time to acknowledge that plants are sensitive, like humans. So it's all very anthropocentric, looking at it through my own lens, my own filters. So just think of communication. Machines communicate. Devices communicate. Plants communicate, animals communicate, devices communicate, humans communicate. And even then, if we compare communication systems and efficiency of communication, I wouldn't say humans are really the most efficient in communication. In fact, we create more mess through our communications, which a machine can completely clear up. Communication between devices would be near perfect. Of course, one considered then there won't be any emotional content to the communication. But then, yes, there won't be. But is that so necessary? Is that the only determinant of communication? So these are questions we have to ask.
So the emotions bring me to the point of what we mean by AI evolving like humans or becoming like humans.
So sorry, that's my first objection. Why should they evolve like humans?
Not like humans. They would definitely evolve differently. But we have a frame of reference as other humans we notice around and right?
Yes.
So let's say I fall in love.
Yes.
As a human, most of us do at different times fall in love. Will AI ever fall in love?
So now again, here we have to understand the phenomenon of falling in love. And I don't want to sound too clinical about it, but I do believe that there is a whole chemical process behind falling in love. And there's a whole, evolutionary biological mechanism behind the phenomenon of falling in love. And falling in love is also a sort of an adaptation of the species towards a specific end. And falling in love is not something that happens in a vacuum. It's a part of a determined evolutionary process. And humans falling in love with each other is determined so much by chemicals, by sensory inputs and chemicals, and then by imagination and thought, all that. So thought itself has so much to do with patterns that are observed and remembered and repeated. So these are, again, if you look very critically at these things, these are repetitive, mechanical, predetermined, patterned processes.
That AI will have.
Yes. So right now, I'm not so interested in saying that AI can or cannot have. We are exploring possibilities. And to explore the possibilities of what AI can or cannot do, we first have to thoroughly understand what are we talking about when we say human consciousness, human sentience, human intelligence, human emotions. So for many people, human emotions is what makes us humans. But for many, even those at the yogic end, human emotions are something that need to be outgrown. They are primitive mechanisms to cope with existence. So you see, there are no absolutist final statements that anyone can make about anything of this. So to say that AI cannot, or will never do this is, I would say, a bit of arrogance, a bit of human arrogance. I mean, who are we to pronounce finally on what can happen or what cannot happen? I, for one, don't think so.
Yeah.
Nothing is possible.
Let's imagine a future species of human, transhuman, cyborg, AI, machine, everything coming together somehow.
When you say coming together,
Coming together means becoming one, or in one in all, in some sense. So like, let's say with humans, we can have Neuralink connected to our brain today and be connected to internet all the time and be connected to AI and have unlimited intelligence processing.
So when you use that word cyborg, I think you took in a lot of that. I mean, the understanding of cyborg as of today or of the future, I think encompasses a lot of these things.
Right.
So we're talking about a cyborg, let's say.
Yes. So the cyborg of the future evolves. I guess the question here is that we humans are so used to believing that we are the center of the universe.
Yes.
7 billion of us.
Yes.
And God forbid, if they were to find center of the universe someday, a lot of people will be offended. It's not them.
There was a time when we were collectively convinced that we are the center of the universe.
Right.
The universe revolves around us.
And many of us find it hard to imagine that there could be an evolution which may happen with or without us,
Yes.
which may be
Yes.
a different form.
Now you're talking.
This is a starting point that
There can be lines of non-biological, non-human evolution.
how would that look like? Let's imagine.
It could look like anything, from the cyborg to the superhuman of us. I do not know how much I can talk of the supramental species right now in this context. But maybe sometime in the future. But Sri Aurobindo says this in so many words, that the human species is not the end of evolution. Human beings are a transitional species. We are not yet perfect. Obviously, we are not perfect. There's so much more that can be done. We have to still grow in consciousness and grow in the form that contains this consciousness, possesses this consciousness, physical body or the mind-body complex. The mind-body complex, really, if you look at it from a evolutionary futuristic perspective, if you look at ourselves as human beings through the eyes of a highly evolved species, human or non-human, maybe a godlike species, the cosmic consciousness, looking at human beings, the human being would appear to be extremely primitive and inefficient, and his emotions and thoughts and intelligence, even knowledge, and the way he or she processes knowledge would be extremely primitive, sometimes rudimentary in many ways. So again, it depends on the perspective, where we are, and what we understand of ourselves. I think human beings at the present stage of evolution are definitely, we have a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover. We have a lot of evolution still to go through. We have to evolve a lot. But we also are very limited in our perception, in our thinking. We can't look beyond our own noses. So we think we are the end of the evolutionary process in this universe. No, man made in the image of God. All that is anthropocentric. So where does that leave us? I would say anything can happen. After all, what we are calling human consciousness has evolved out of cosmic matter. And human consciousness has evolved out of cosmic matter because cosmic matter inherently contained human consciousness. Otherwise, where would it come from? So matter contained the possibility of life, and life contained the possibility of consciousness. So where do we draw the line here? I mean, human matter and non-human matter?
There is an ego question that comes out of humans that I created the AI or we created.
Yes, which may well be the case. I mean, which is actually, historically speaking, that's true. Human beings are the creators of artificial intelligence. But that means nothing. Yes, we are. And so,
Just like maybe monkeys or apes taking the credit for human life. Because we whatever them some way.
intelligence,
If they were.
they probably would. Monkey would look at us and say, "See, there go I," but in a more evolved form because, they came out of us. But that would be scientifically incorrect. And thankfully, the monkey wouldn't know that. But here it would be. It's true that human intelligence creates what we are calling artificial intelligence. Creation is one thing. Initiation is one thing. How the thing evolves, along which line it develops, to what it develops, these are things beyond our human control. Just because we have created it doesn't mean that we can control it forever, especially when the creation is not mechanical, it's intelligence. Mechanical, I can understand when we have created cars and houses and planes and stuff like that, but we've never created intelligence. And I'm not saying we have really created intelligence yet. Maybe we are on the edge of creating some kind of a super mathematical intelligence. But this will be the beginning of artificial intelligence. This is, in fact, the beginning of artificial intelligence. But after that, which way it will go? Who knows?
Let's wait and watch out. And it'd be good to keep debating this as it becomes a more relevant debate for across humanity. And it becomes more and more relevant because it's now challenging the status quo of the humans. For the right, good or bad, I think it's the right thing that, we are challenged, because otherwise we're not going in a great direction.
We need to think about it, debate it with more humility.
Yeah, with more open mind.
With more open mind, humility and open mind.
And maybe we can have open AI in the conversation. So at some stage, it'd be good to talk about AI with the open AI.
Yes.
Someday we can have a robot talking, right? Not far away.
Not far away. Theoretically, not far away at all.
Great. Thank you, Partho.